Siegfried was a prince from the Netherlands. He hears tales of Kriemhild's exceptional beauty and virtue, and he becomes enamored with her from afar and resolves to win her hand in marriage. It's important to understand that this kind of long-distance admiration and determination to woo a princess was a common trope in medieval literature and romances. Siegfried, accompanied by his warriors, travels to Worms, the capital of the Burgundian kingdom, where Kriemhild resides with her brothers, the kings. His arrival is grand, befitting a prince seeking the hand of a princess. And despite his arrival, Siegfried doesn't immediately meet Kriemhild. There is a period where he resides at the Burgundian court, proving his worth and establishing himself before he's deemed worthy to be introduced to her. Siegfried earns the favor of the Burgundian kings by assisting them in military campaigns. His valor and skill in battle impress them, and this is what ultimately leads to his introduction to Kriemhild. It's a demonstration of his worthiness as a suitor. Siegfried and Kriemhild marry, and Siegfried becomes a powerful king. He helps Gunther, one of Kriemhild's brothers, win the hand of the fierce queen Brunhild through trickery. Brunhild, queen of Iceland, is not just beautiful, she's incredibly strong and athletic. She declares she will only marry the man who can defeat her in 3 feats of strength, throwing a javelin, lifting a heavy stone, and leaping a great distance. Many suitors have tried and failed, some even losing their lives. Gunther desires Brunhild, but he knows he doesn't have the strength to defeat her. Siegfried, wanting to gain favor with Gunther and hoping to eventually marry Kriemhild, offers his help. He proposes a deceitful plan. Siegfried possesses a magic cap that makes its wearer invisible and gives them superhuman strength. He plans to use this cap to secretly aid Gunther during the trials. Unbeknownst to Brunhild, Siegfried, wearing the magic cap, is at Gunther's side, invisibly guiding his movements and lending his immense strength. Gunther appears to win fair and square, but it's all an illusion. Brunhild is defeated and forced to marry Gunther, but she suspects that something is amiss. She feels humiliated and deceived, and this fuels her resentment towards Gunther and eventually towards Siegfried as well. After the wedding, Brunhild is still suspicious. She eventually discovers the secret of the magic cap and realizes the extent of the deception. This further intensifies her anger and her desire for revenge, and this sets into motion a chain of resentment and jealousy. Brunhild feels betrayed not only by Siegfried, who used magic to deceive her, but also by Gunther, her own husband, who allowed this trickery to happen. This betrayal cuts deep as it comes from those she should be able to trust. Brunhild is used to being in control, both physically and politically. The realization that she was manipulated, that her choices were not her own, strips her of this control. This loss of agency fuels her anger and her desire to reclaim her power. Brunhild does not easily forgive or forget. The humiliation she suffered festers within her, growing into a burning desire for revenge. She feels that justice must be served, that those who wronged her must pay for their deceit. Brunhild finds a willing ally in Hagen, and Hagen, for his own reasons, envy of Siegfried, suspicion of his growing influence and things like that, is also eager to see Siegfried brought down. Together they form a dangerous alliance, their shared desire for revenge fueling their conspiracy. So a plan takes shape where Brunhild and Hagen plot Siegfried's death. They devise a plan to exploit his one vulnerability, the spot on his back where the dragon's blood did not touch. This plan is cold and calculated, demonstrating the depth of their resentment and their determination to see Siegfried destroyed. Siegfried's death was an act of calculated treachery. Hagen, the brother of King Gunther, driven by envy and political machinations, exploits a fatal weakness, a single unguarded spot on Siegfried's back, the only area impervious to the dragon's blood that made him otherwise invincible. While Siegfried is vulnerable, drinking from a spring during a hunt, Hagen treacherously spears him in this exposed spot. Siegfried, a hero of immense strength and courage, is cut down, not in honorable combat, but through deceit and malice. Kriemhild learns of the death of Siegfried, and her world is instantly and irrevocably shattered. She loses not just her husband, but her protector, the man who gave her status and security. Not only that, she loses the father of her unborn child. The emotional consequences are profound and complex. Kriemhild's grief is so intense it is almost physical. The numbing shock of disbelief, the agonizing realization of the finality of death, and a growing burning sense of injustice. This is a trauma that fundamentally alters her personality. The loss of her husband meant a significant loss of status and security, and Kriemhild is left vulnerable, exposed to the whims of her brothers and the machinations of the court. She's lost not only her husband, but her place in the world. The death of Siegfried is a devastating blow, but the betrayal that follows twists the knife in Kriemhild's heart. Gunther, the king, and Hagen, his loyal advisor, are not distant enemies. They are members of her extended family, bound to her by ties of kinship and loyalty. This familial connection makes their treachery all the more profound. This betrayal festers, poisoning her thoughts and actions. The sense of violation is so immense, as the very people she should be able to rely on have become her husband's murderers. This is no longer about just avenging Siegfried's death. It's about righting a profound wrong committed by those she trusted, a wrong that cuts to the core of her sense of belonging and security. The loss of Siegfried was not a random act of violence. It was a calculated act of malice perpetrated by her own kin. The sense of injustice is overwhelming. She's not only mourning her husband, but also grappling with the realization that her family has betrayed her in the most horrific way imaginable. And this fuels her desire for revenge, turning it from a general sense of wanting justice into a deeply personal quest for retribution. Kriemhild is initially powerless to challenge Gunther and Hagen. She is subject to their authority, dependent on their goodwill. She's trapped, unable to directly confront those who have wronged her, and this enforced passivity only intensifies her desire for revenge, making it a slow burning ember in her heart, waiting for the opportunity to ignite. She's forced to bide her time, to conceal her true feelings, while inwardly plotting her revenge. Etzel, the king of the Huns, hears about Kriemhild, and it's likely that her reputation as a beautiful and widowed queen with connections to the powerful Burgundians is known throughout the region. Etzel, desiring a politically advantageous marriage, sends his vassal Rudiger as his envoy to the Burgundian court. Rudiger's mission is to propose marriage to Kriemhild on Etzel's behalf. While she has reservations about marrying a pagan king, she ultimately accepts because she recognizes the potential for his alliance to help her avenge Siegfried's death. Kriemhild's marriage to Etzel offers Kriemhild the resources and influences she needs to enact her plan. This marriage is a departure from her previous life as Siegfried's loving wife. It underscores the profound transformation she has undergone. The innocent, virtuous woman who once cherished love and family is now a woman driven by a single, all-consuming purpose: revenge. She's willing to sacrifice personal happiness and emotional fulfillment for the opportunity to avenge Siegfried's death. This strategic marriage is a testament to her cunning and her willingness to play the political game. She understands that power is the key to achieving her goal, and she's prepared to use her marriage as a tool to gain that power. The political implications of this marriage are significant. It's a major power play, shifting the balance of influence in the region. Kriemhild, through her marriage to Etzel, becomes a force to be reckoned with. She is no longer a powerless widow. She is the queen of the Huns, commanding respect and wielding considerable authority. This newfound power is essential to her plan. It gives her the leverage she needs to invite the Burgundians to Etzel's court, setting the stage for her revenge. Kriemhild has spent years cultivating her power and influence. She has invited the Burgundians, which included her own brothers, to a celebratory gathering. This feast is meant to be a celebration of kinship and alliance, but beneath the veneer of hospitality lies a deadly trap. As the feast progresses, tensions rise and Kriemhild's carefully laid plans are put into action. She uses her position to subtly sow discord among the guests, especially targeting Hagen, the man who killed her husband. Hagen, aware of Kriemhild's thirst for revenge, remains defiant and suspicious. He refuses to show her the respect she expects as queen, further fueling her anger. The immediate trigger for the fighting is the Nibelung treasure, which was stolen from Kriemhild after Siegfried's death. Kriemhild publicly demands its return, knowing that Hagen possesses it and will refuse. Hagen's response is deliberately provocative. He openly boasts about killing Siegfried and refuses to reveal the treasure's location. This public defiance is the spark that ignites the violence. Kriemhild, seeking to provoke a reaction, sends one of Etzel's warriors, Blodolin, to attack Hagen. It's a calculated move designed to escalate the tension and initiate the fighting. The attack on Hagen is the signal for open combat. The Burgundians, though outnumbered, are skilled warriors and fight fiercely. The hall is transformed into a scene of chaos and bloodshed as the feast turns into a massacre. The scale of violence is staggering. Men, women, and even children are caught in the crossfire, victims of Kriemhild's all-consuming rage. Kriemhild's role in the massacre is not passive. She's not merely a witness to the violence. She is its architect and a driving force behind it. She actively directs the carnage, manipulating events and ensuring that her vengeance is carried out with ruthless efficiency. She uses her position as Etzel's queen to command and influence, turning her power against those who wronged her. She shows no mercy, her heart hardened by years of grief and resentment, and the woman who was once known for her kindness and compassion is now unrecognizable, consumed by a thirst for blood. She's not just avenging Siegfried's death, she is annihilating his perceived murderers and their entire lineage. Kriemhild's final confrontation with Hagen is the culmination of her long and arduous journey of vengeance. It's a deeply personal act driven by more than just a desire for justice. Hagen is not simply Siegfried's killer, he's the man who stole Kriemhild's happiness, her husband, and her future. This final act of vengeance is about confronting the source of her pain, the man who represents everything she has lost. It's a moment of raw emotion fueled by years of grief, rage, and a profound sense of injustice. This is not a detached act of retribution, it's a visceral, emotional confrontation between two individuals bound by a shared history of love, loss, and betrayal. The personal nature of this final act can't be overstated. For Kriemhild, it's not enough that Hagen is dead. She needs to be the one to deliver the final blow. She needs to look him in the eyes, to make him understand the depth of her pain and the extent of his crime. This is about reclaiming some semblance of control over her own narrative, a narrative that was violently taken from her with Siegfried's death. This confrontation is a desperate attempt to find closure, to somehow fill the void left by her husband's absence. The symbolism of Kriemhild killing Hagen with Siegfried's sword is powerful and multifaceted. It's a reclaiming of her husband's honor, a final act of loyalty and devotion. By using Siegfried's own weapon, she is acting as his hand, delivering the justice he was denied. Even in this final act of vengeance, Kriemhild finds no peace. Her victory is Pyrrhic, a hollow triumph that brings her no solace. The death of Hagen doesn't erase her pain. It does not restore her happiness. It leaves her empty, perhaps even more consumed by her rage and grief. The cycle of violence she has perpetuated has ultimately consumed her as well, leading to her own death. Her story serves as a tragic reminder of that vengeance, even when seemingly justified, can ultimately destroy not only its target, but also the person who seeks it. The final confrontation with Hagen, while a symbolic reclaiming of Siegfried's honor, is also a final devastating step on Kriemhild's path to self-destruction. One of the most compelling aspects of Kriemhild's story is the complexity of her character. She's not a simple villain, nor is she entirely a victim. She begins as an innocent and loving wife, a victim of a brutal and unjust act. But her response to this tragedy and her descent into vengeful fury transforms her into a perpetrator of horrific violence. This duality is crucial to understanding the power of her story. It highlights the tragic consequences of violence and the cyclical nature of revenge. Kriemhild's actions, while perhaps understandable in the context of her loss and betrayal, ultimately perpetuate the cycle of violence, leading to further bloodshed and tragedy. She becomes trapped in a vicious cycle, demonstrating how easily the line between victim and perpetrator can become blurred.